Season 3 of Invincible
It just ended. Yeah.
So, wanted to get your thoughts on it. How did it compare to other seasons in general? Like, what you thought?
So I loved it. I think that the show manages to keep ramping up its tension with every single season. Every time I think it's gonna how can it get any worse? They do something crazier.
Okay, I have a comment about that. And probably my biggest gripe with the show in general is that nothing is forever, for lack of a better term.
What do you mean?
What I mean by that, the villain from last season, what's his name?
Angstrom Levy?
Angstrom Levy, fucking
KSI. Hey, yeah.
He, we thought he was dead, and then he came back. And then what happened at the very end of season 3? The Martian people are coming back. Conquest, who had just been murdered, killed, he's still alive. So it's like they never fully kill off characters, which I think ruins a lot of the tension.
I think I agree with you. I was gonna say something similar along that lines, but I don't really have too much of a problem with them bringing stuff back, because every time that I've questioned that, they always bring it back and they pay it off really well.
I think it cheapens the tension
a little bit. And
now that it's happened so many times, every time there's like a major villain that gets killed or whatever, I'm like, is he really killed? Even with Rexplode dying, I'm like, is he really dead, or are they gonna find a way to bring him back?
Like another multiverses.
Yeah, like a multiverse Rex comes into play, or Rudy goes to the site where he died and he finds like a little sample of him and he somehow like brings him back.
Yeah, I mean that's like the biggest problem with like superhero comics in general. They do that a lot.
I think this comic kind of like toes a line of, is it parody? Like it knows what it is.
Yeah, it does. Know? This is the last character death fake out that I will tolerate, and I'm talking about Eve.
Okay.
Because I know, obviously, like after I watch the episode, I do go back and see how they did it in the comics. I just don't go further than that.
Okay.
So yes, Eve does it in the comics. They did show it in the, I don't know if you've seen the Adam Eve special.
No.
So in the Adam Eve special, which is really good by the way, they show that this thing where like when her power is pushed to the maximum, like she can unlock it and do crazy shit. In the Eve special, she does do the same thing that she did in the finale, where she like comes back. However, when they killed her, when Conquest kills her, I was like, holy shit. And especially the way they did it.
That was
like,
awesome.
It was so cool.
I had my mouth wide open.
Me too. Yeah, but then they did the thing where they started bringing her back. And I was like, okay, I think this is the last time I will allow it for this show. I don't want them to bring back Rex. I know they're going to bring back Conquest. That's fine. I don't really know him too much. He's a villain that was only in one episode. It's not that big of a deal. But like with main characters, this is it. Like I don't think I can take it anymore. They do that a lot. No Invincible episode has yet to top, to me, the episode where Omni-Man and Mark fight.
Yes.
That's still the peak of the show for me.
I will say this season finale was the number 2 for me. That was my second favorite episode after season 1 of finale.
You liked it more than season 2's finale?
Yes. The whole time I was like, how is Mark gonna get away from
this?
You know,
I that is
really
true.
I had no idea what was going to happen.
That is true. Really and when the show manages to do that, especially with a character that's... But going back to the Omni-Man thing, I'm getting frustrated that he's not showing up. Like this whole season, they teased it, but then they did nothing with it.
The core of the story is Mark and Nolan's relationship.
Yeah, and that's been absent.
That's been absent this season.
For 2 seasons, too. It wasn't there in season 2, except for the part where
the beginning where he like brings his brother, you know.
Yeah.
And I would like to see more of that, but I'm just not... My expectations are low at this point of that, because a lot of the show, in somewhere or the other, feels like a filler. A lot of the episodes.
But it's like good filler.
But
like,
it's still entertaining. Look,
like the episode where he goes to the future with Immortal.
At the end of the day, it's like that episode, was it necessary for the plot? Did it develop the plot?
It does foreshadow. It does foreshadow some things.
I think it's debatable how much it pushed the plot forward. But was it entertaining? Absolutely, it was great. You know, and so ultimately, this show is very entertainment based and kind of like all these wacky things happen that don't necessarily like do anything for the story, but are just fun.
But it's a really good show.
Yeah,
like I think
like
it's some of the best television out right now.
I've been really enjoying it, and it's one of my favorite shows of the past few years.
What did you think of the Invincible War? When like all the Invincibles show up and fight, do you think that was? Because a lot of people seem to think that was rushed.
So I liked it. I can understand why some people thought it was rushed, but I think it ruined some of the tension by Angstrom Levy sort of like coming back in this, surprising way. If this was part of the arc of Angstrom Levy, like the original arc, I think that would have served the story better. But it cheapened, again, going back to what we were saying, by him coming back, and then he like brought all the marks.
Yeah. Don't you think that makes it a little bit more realistic though, with things just kind of randomly happening?
Why is that more realistic?
Because there is no arc. It's just like Conquest shows up at the most random fucking time, but that's also like why it's good, because
I agree, but I think there needs to be some
structure,
conclusion.
It does feel like it lacks structure a little bit.
Even like a good villain, when they die, it serves a purpose to the story, or there's some kind of like conclusion to their character arc, and we're lacking that because no one ever dies.
Yeah.
In that finale, I loved the fact that it was just Negan beating the shit out of Glenn.
Oh yeah.
Again.
and Robert Kirkman confirmed on X that he's precisely part of why they cast him.
Yeah, so
because of the meta aspect of
it. That was incredible. I don't want to keep shitting on the show because I do really like it.
Yeah.
But I don't know that Jeffrey Dean Morgan was necessarily like the best casting choice for Conquest. Conquest is a guy who's been alive for thousands of years. He doesn't sound like as old and I don't know, like doesn't have that like gruffness in his voice that I would have expected from someone who looks like that. Just Jeffrey Dean Morgan's range isn't that wide. Like it just sounded like Negan.
It did kind of sound like Negan. Yeah, when he was laughing, it was like, oh, that's just like Negan too. But I mean, you're right. I see where you're coming from.
But for the meta aspect of it, I absolutely love that.
My favorite thing about this season was the fact that Mark is with Eve, because I fucking hated, what was her name?
Amber. I feel bad for Amber. She was just a normal person, and she was dealing with all this crazy shit.
I felt bad for her too, but also like, he's a superhero. You know what I mean?
He can do better than that. He needs someone like Eve who understands his life more. Yeah,
that and then Rex's arc.
And that's the only one that might actually stick, because usually when a bad person becomes like gains moral clarity, they die. Yeah. And that's like the Robert Kirkman special too.
Oh, I did want to ask you this, because this was one of the biggest critiques of the season. I didn't have a problem with it, but it was all over
the animation.
Yeah. What did you think?
Yeah, so, okay, my take on it is I think the animation is fine compared to the other seasons.
Yeah.
But why is, like, they should be getting the Rings of Power budget, not Rings of Power.
Yeah, I
agree. Like, no one cares about Rings of Power. Like, give more money to Invincible. People actually watch that show. And there's no reason that I think the animation is very fine. It's very mediocre. It could be a lot better.
But people were saying that it's like a massive downgrade from season 1 and season 2.
I didn't think that. I didn't notice that.
I think people are overreacting.
I'd rather get it out faster than for the animation to be
like, I spectacular. I agree. Because if people want like 10 out of 10 animation, it's going to be like once every 2 years. And then people are going to be complaining on how it takes too long. Mm-hmm. So if you got to pick which one
pick your battles.
And like personally, I'd rather have it yearly, because if the story's good, I can get over mediocre animation, because the story's amazing.